Well, I hope everybody had lovely conversation at dinner, and I'll just clarify, yes, I am standing, so I'm only 5 feet tall. But it's time for us to turn to the keynote, and we're very fortunate to have Lisa Luckett here. I'm Kara Trott from the class of 1983. I'm a WOW co-chair with Sam, although I cannot claim to have done a whole lot. Sam did a lot of the work here. I'm also a member of the Ohio Wesleyan Board of Trustees and the Connect Today, Create Tomorrow Campaign Leadership Committee. In those roles, I've had the privilege of working closely with Rock, who is our 16th president. And as you may have heard, he's just celebrating his 10th year here. Yay! And certainly under his leadership, the campus has undergone a lot of changes, and really the strength of our incoming classes and everything has continued to improve. His intellectual curiosity and passion for higher learning and for Ohio Wesleyan is evident to anyone who's worked with him. And I have to tell you, I work with a lot of executives around the country, and Rock is by far, he's not just rock, he's a rock star, so he's great. So Ohio Wesleyan is really, really fortunate to have Rock leading us. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Rock Jones.
Thank you, Kara. I remember meeting Kara for the first time. It was at an alumni event at Lindy's up on the upper floor. And she arrived and just sort of allowed herself just to barely step in the front door. And we stood together there at the front door for about 30 minutes, and about 10 minutes into it, I said, wow, what an amazing woman. And about 5 minutes later, I thought, we need her on our board. And I want to thank you, Kara, for all that you do for Ohio Wesleyan and for the generous introduction. It's so wonderful to see all of you here tonight, and as I look around the room, I see women from many decades of life here at Ohio Wesleyan. I see women of extraordinary accomplishment in many areas of service to our society. I see women who have provided leadership here at Ohio Wesleyan in a number of ways. Several of you have served on our alumni board. Several of you have served on our board of trustees. Some of you have worked here at Ohio Wesleyan, and all of you have worked on behalf of Ohio Wesleyan in a variety of ways. And it's just terrific to have you here for this weekend of networking and mentoring and giving, the Wesleyan of Women Weekend, now biennial, the second, and I understand already plans are being made for 2 years from now. It's my great honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker this evening, Lisa Luckett. I first met Lisa as the mother of Jen. Where are you now, Jen? Who arrived on campus in 2012 and graduated in 2016, now off in Boston, just back from Italy on a work-related trip. And then as the mother of Billy, who is a student here at Ohio Wesleyan now in his junior year, and was thrilled and honored to meet Lisa, and have been thrilled and honored to watch Jen and Billy develop. One of the great things about the life Melissa and I lead here on campus is the opportunity to watch students as they enter and as they mature and as they grow and as they do amazing things here on campus. And as I look around the room this evening, I see women who have been students since we have been here, who now are doing amazing things other places. And so, as I said, I first met Lisa as the mother of Jen and the mother of Billy. But long before I met her, I knew of her as a person who married into the Ohio Wesleyan family in 1990 when she and Ted Luckett married. Ted was from the class of 1984. Ted worked at Cantor Fitzgerald and was one of those who lost his life on 9/11, one of 3 Ohio Wesleyan alumni who died on that day. And I was aware of the story of the Friends of OWU and the relationships that really came to life again in that deep tragedy. And I began to become aware of the way in which Lisa's life was shaped even more powerfully in ways that have influenced others with hope and optimism and light and great power because of her own courage and her own conviction and her own growth in both prior to and in the years that followed that deep tragedy. I had the opportunity to read her recent book, The Light of 9/11, Shocked by Kindness, Healed by Love. And I encourage you to do so. I think you'll be signing copies of the book this evening. It is an extraordinary story, deeply personal, courageous in its candor. It's a story of a life, but more than that, it's a story of hope and optimism and light as a choice that can be made in a life that can be lived regardless of the circumstances that come one's way. Let me give you a spoiler alert. If you let her sign your book and start reading it tonight, you will be very tired when you arrive tomorrow because you will not be able to put it down and go to sleep. It's an extraordinary personal story written by an extraordinary woman. The book has been featured on Weekend Express and on Headline News. Lisa has been interviewed in a number of settings, including by Salon. She calls herself an activist for kindness. Her mantra, "Choose Courage," is the foundation of her social vision, reminding us that we are strong, resilient, and have a choice in how we live our lives, regardless of what comes our way in our lives. I know that we all are in for a grand treat as this evening we hear from Lisa Luckett. Lisa, welcome and thank you.
I have one word. Wow. Wow. Okay, two. Let me just take this in. I have been thinking about this moment for 7 months. I was sitting month 15 of writing my book because I wrote it first the wrong way and had to rewrite it when Katie, the lovely, fantastic Katie Webster, called me out of the blue and asked me to be the keynote at this conference. I hadn't even finished the book yet, but this is the path I was hoping to take to become a public speaker because, quite honestly, time is flying and I need about 20 years to get this message out. So with that said, I want to thank you, Rock Jones. You are a rock star and have been, and I said to you when we sat down today, I met Rock 10 years ago, and I had the good fortune of also knowing Tom Cordes, who was the president here in 2001, and other years, but I knew him then, and Evan Corns, and Phil Meeks, and these amazing men that set the tone for this school after, of course, I had met the many alumni that were friends of Teddy's. So we know he was the class of '84, but he was also the class of '83, because he had a long tenure here at Ohio Wesleyan. But honestly, this is a dream come true for me, and I couldn't, so that you know, this is my first official, professional keynote address, and to have it here, and to share it here with you guys is just perfect poetic justice. You know, I'm looking at Jen nodding me and I'm trying not to cry. And it's just, Ohio Wesleyan has meant so much to me. You know, I didn't know in the fall of 1986 that I was going to meet the man of my dreams. And I didn't know, like, stop nodding at me, Jen, I'm going to cry. And I didn't know that 2 months later I'd meet all of his amazing friends from college at Jim Keogh's house in Staten Island after a black tie event in New York, because that's what we did in the 80s. We went to black tie events and drank a lot. And so when Ted and I first met, we didn't start dating right away because he was just so cute and I was so starved for new friends in New York because I had just moved there about 18 months before and I had the hardest year and a half of my life and I was so lonely. I was so happy to meet Ted and our friend Dan that we just hung out together. So as it turns out, Ted and I were courting. Can you imagine courting? Courting, and Danny was our chaperone, and we played. Oh my gosh, and all I did was laugh, because Teddy Luckett to those who know him, was one of the truly funniest people on the planet. So we would have this, so when I first met him, we had this conversation, you know, where'd you go to school? Well, where'd you go to school? And he said, well, I went to OWU. I went, what? OWU? And he's like, yeah, Ohio Wesleyan. Like, didn't you know that? And I went to Colorado State, for those of you, which it doesn't have this bond at all. And I thought, that has to be one heck of a sense of humor, to have a school called OWU. I love it. I love it. I'm getting ahead of myself. First of all, I want to thank Katie Webster, thank Kara, Sam, all of this amazing village that put this event together. To just the honor of being the keynote for the second annual of this is just beyond words for me. So thank you so much for having me. I am gonna read a little, because as much as I wanted to study this and deliver this like a TED Talk, the message I have, I really want it to come through. It's really something I really feel passionately about. It's my mission for the rest of my life. So I'm 58 years old. I figure I've got 20 good ones in me. So join me, let's go. So throughout the years, I've watched Ohio Wesleyan, and I've seen this special connective energy here that I've never seen anywhere else. And when I explain it to people having my kids here, I say it's this soulfulness. And then what I know is that anybody who finds their way here is meant to know each other on a soul level. Because really what we're ultimately going to talk about 3 books from now is the soul level. But we'll start here. It's really funny because, just one more Ohio Wesleyan thing. Billy was looking at a new junior high school. And the alumni, to speak to the alumni here, we were kind of nervous, and we had to go meet with the headmaster. We were from public school, and we were like, headmaster. So we were sitting in the office kind of nervous, and I'm reading his bio, and what happened at the bottom of the bio, he went to Ohio Wesleyan. So I thought, we're good. So turns out Chad Small, who somebody may or may know, I think he graduated somewhere in the 50s, and his wife, Susan, and his 3 brothers, and their wives, and many of their children all went to Ohio Wesleyan. So Jennifer Luckett still has Chad Small's Ohio Wesleyan chair in her apartment in Boston now. So I just think it's an amazingly charming place. It has a really important connection here that should be cherished and treasured, and I know it is. So thank you for allowing me to be a surrogate OWU community member. How's that? So you know that I've just released this book, and as I was explaining to my table, it's when you write a book, people are like, oh, you wrote a book, and you're like, it is a kind of a big undertaking, and I just have to say that if I can write a book, anybody can write a book. Mostly it's you have a story to tell, and it's not that you can stop it, it's in you like you need to give it birth. So that's what kept going, that's what kept me going. It's actually the 5th year in a 20-year campaign to bring a brand of kindness to the world. So it's not my end game. It's a memoir, it's the micro story, so that I can meet you and hopefully you'll trust me. So as Rock said, it's pretty candid, because I'm pretty candid, because I'm not a very good liar, so I'm going to tell it to you straight. But as a result, I hope you trust me. Because book 2 is the macro story, and it's about our world, what's going on, and how we got here. But it's going to take you a little further out on the trust spectrum. And then book 3 is going to be about our beautiful future, if we can shift our perspective just a little bit. So what I'm hoping is you'll come with me. So that's how this came to be. I wanted to be a speaker. I looked into it. I did a few interviews on the radio around the 15th anniversary of 9/11, only to realize in order to be credible, you had to write a book. So that's how we got here today. So to talk about 9/11, I know I can't be up here, and while the book is founded in 9/11, it's not really a book about 9/11. It's a book about how the catalyst 9/11 became the catalyst for me to experience remarkable personal growth. And it's about choosing to see the light or the lesson in your trauma or your struggle. And it's about the remarkable, magical healing of kindness. Something we can all affect immediately. So we do have our power. And as this is an empowerment conference, there's lots of ways to have power. We just have maybe either forgotten how to see them, or we've just not been looking in the right place. So Jenny was not feeling very well on the morning of 9/11, so I took her to school a little late that day. She had just started second grade in our little suburban town in coastal New Jersey where nothing ever happens, and we nicknamed it Mayberry because it's just this cute little village. When I walked back in, the phone was ringing. And when I answered it, my friend said, "Lisa, what tower is Teddy in?" And I said, "Well, the one with the antenna on it, why?" And she said to me, and I quote, "Well, turn on the television because a plane just hit it and took off the top 15 floors." She didn't ask me what floor he was on, because he was on the 105th floor, 2 stories from the top. So in the seconds that it took me to run from there to my television, I thought Teddy was dead on the ground. So standing in front of the television, holding Billy, who was 4, holding his hand. I had Timmy, who was 4 months, on my shoulder. Together we stood there watching this horrific scene. The hole where the plane had gone in, the fire, the black, black, black smoke billowing out and engulfing the upper floors of the North Tower. But the building was still intact. I had a moment of hope. Maybe he could go to the roof. It was then that I saw the second plane hit the second tower, and I knew we were in trouble. How could we not see this coming? A lot of people have forgotten there was a terrorist attack on the World Trade Center in 1993. In that attack, Teddy walked down those 105 floors in a 4.5-hour slow crawling march to get out. In that attack, there was no smoke outside any of the buildings. And I tell you this because when Ted got home that night, when he took a shower, the water ran black for 5 minutes because he was covered in so much soot. So when I saw that black billowing smoke engulfing the upper floors and the roof, I knew in my heart my Teddy was gone. As I look back on it now, I see that I was prepared for Teddy's death by 2 macabre and difficult things. One being the attacks in 1993, which were my first experience of terrorism. And about 6 months afterward, I had this acute, if not delayed, reaction of anger and fear and hatred at the terrorists. They had almost killed Teddy. But nobody around really gave it much mind. It was swept under the carpet. Things went back to normal very quickly. Years later, when it happened again, I never got angry again. Because in our minds, consciously or subconsciously, we all knew they were going back into 2 enormous targets. The second thing that prepared me was the fact that every time I saw Ted's mom for about 10 years, the 10 years we were married, she would tell me that he was going to die of a heart attack. Because he had naturally high occurring cholesterol. He was a little overweight, but he was stressing out all the time, trying to earn for and take care of our expanding family. Timmy was 4 months old, and we were 40 plus. He was working stressful, long hours, commuting to New York on Wall Street. Is there anything more stressful? So the guy really was. He couldn't exercise or eat right. He was a cliche. He was a walking heart attack. But what it did was it made me run his death through my mind literally hundreds of times, because I was a little crazy. Plus, the constant prompting always reminded me. So I thought it through and thought it through. I would get myself so worked up, I would weep in anticipation. So I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So when I finally tortured myself enough, we bought as much life insurance as we could afford. I made sure I knew where all the important documents were. Made sure we went to bed well each night, having righted any wrongs, so there would be no regrets. And I let it go. Because of these things, by mid-morning, on the morning of 9/11, I found myself in this calm, offensive position. In the strangest way, I was fine. I was clear. I was capable. I was also the nursing mother of a 4-month-old. And nature doesn't let you go down. Nature's remarkable. By 11 a.m., my house was already filled with people, coming and going. It was chaos. It was Grand Central. It was madness. Both towers had fallen, and people were spinning in circles, wringing their hands, desperate in their shock and their fear. They were asking me what they could do for me, what it was I needed. Through their pain, I could feel their love. I knew they needed to help me to take care of themselves. It was then that the surreal, heightened awareness took over, and I had 3 very clear, prescient knowings. The first one being, oh my God, it could be so much worse. It could be 12:30 in the afternoon like it was in 1993, and those buildings could be full. We could be burying even more people. Number 2, that the world as we knew it was now changed for everything, ever. Things had just shifted completely. And 3, that it would be 2 years to a new normal. I'd never heard that term before. But I knew to put my head down and go, to stay calm and in the moment, because things got very, very simple. It was about my 3 kids, and I'm going to cry. They were all that mattered. About the same time that morning, I remember feeling the sensation of hands behind me holding me up. I thought, Teddy, is that you? Am I imagining this? But I felt it. Now I see I was being guided almost immediately. I was surrounded by people needing to help me. I say need because it's a natural human condition to take care, to need to do something in a crisis. To help, move, right? Take care of something. Get something done. But in reality, there was absolutely nothing anyone could do for themselves, for himself, herself, for me. I could feel how much my friends needed to help me. I could feel how much they were hurting. I couldn't get my head around the fact that Teddy might be dead, but I was with them in the crisis that our country had just been attacked, that we were in serious, serious trouble. I'm strong and generous by nature. I'm also a controlling Virgo, Alpha. In a crisis, it's me who will take care of you. I was also raised in the 60s, 70s, and 80s during the women's movement, when the message to women was that not only could we do it all, but that to ask for help was a shameful sign of weakness or failure. But on the morning of 9/11, the magnitude of the shock blew me so wide open. I was given a new meaning of the word love, meaning of love. A voice of knowing in my head said to me, Lisa, let them help you. In what would be the most important moment of my life, I shifted and understood that the only way I could help these people, my friends and neighbors who were so desperate in their pain and in their shock and fear, was to actually let them help me. In my head, my ego said, oh, no, absolutely not. Nope, no. But something bigger than me was pulling me through this. In that instant, my heart won out, and I let go of my coveted control. In that moment of surrender, I walked through a metaphoric door and was flooded with the gifts of humility, gratitude, and grace, and the most remarkable feeling of love that has been with me ever since. It's then that I could not stop seeing the positive in everything. All I saw was the beauty around me, the unconditional love that was pouring in from everywhere, from everyone. It's impossible to describe how my children and I were showered with love and affection from thoughts and prayers from everyone. We received thousands of cards and gifts, letters and phone calls from friends and strangers in our community, in our region, across the country, and from around the world, literally. I was nursing Timmy. The phone didn't stop ringing for 3 straight months, and I was nursing Timmy at the time and actually shortened a tendon in my shoulder because call waiting kept beeping through. But I can tell you now, it's because of this remarkable and unprecedented volume of love and the fact that we were never forgotten, that my children and I were held sustained and buoyant as we healed. This is the power of unconditional love and the remarkable kindness of strangers. My children and I have received the best of everyone. We still get it to this day, don't we? I've always said that if we would treat each other the way 9/11 families were treated, we would live in a far kinder and gentler world. That's because people know our story. So before they judge us, they give us that moment of consideration or that pause. What if we treated each other as if we don't know their story? What would our world look like then? I call this the Goddness of 9/11. It's the goodness without one O. It's the incredible love, support, and thoughtfulness that was showered on my kids and me in the wake of 9/11. It's also the magnanimous strength of the human spirit in a crisis. In our humanness, we can only imagine the negative when we think of a trauma or a tragedy, the death of a spouse, cancer diagnosis, a sick child. We can never conjure the love, the care, the support, the goodness, the Goddness that's going to come with it. But the Goddness always comes, doesn't it? We're always there for each other, and often by the people you never expect. For me, 9/11 shot me out of the proverbial box, a box I had never fit into for the first 40 years of my life, only to realize that I had always belonged out of the box in the first place. Who knew? Suddenly I was free and emancipated from those restrictive ties. In that enlightened moment, I knew to trust myself. As those first days passed, as much as my heart hurt and as worried as I was, a new sense of strength began to build inside me. Pain and fear became my fuel for action. I felt a power, a determination unlike anything I had ever known before. I had become a warrior, not an angry, vengeful warrior, but a warrior of love. I felt a fierce love and a profound positive strength. I stood in a solid place. I was a mother who would protect and care for her children. I would navigate my broken family through this maelstrom. We would be okay. Every cell of my being told me this was right, and I trusted myself instead of looking to others for answers. In those early weeks, I vowed I would never let Teddy and all the others die in vain. I would make something good come from this nightmare, or the terrorist would win, and that was completely unacceptable to me. My only weapon in fighting back was to figure it out, and fast. I needed to dig in and find alternative solutions as quickly as possible. After a lifetime of frustration, of being misunderstood and misunderstanding, I didn't care what people thought anymore. I was caught in the middle of a world-changing catastrophe, the likes of which we had never experienced. I was on a mission. I had important things to figure out for my children, for myself, and for the world. For the next 4 years, no, let me back up. If you think of 9/11 as the equivalent of having every emotional bone in your body broken simultaneously, quite frankly times millions of people, you would go to the doctor for your body, so I went to the doctor for my mind. For the next 4 years, I peeled back, searched through, and studied the events, the relationships, the struggles of my life to find the core issues. I realized clearly that although my children and I had lost so much, we still had so much left. 9/11 became the catalyst that allowed me to break the generational chains of dysfunction and take my children forward on a new trajectory. I was strong enough and motivated enough to be the pivot and change my young children's lives and futures for the better. A few years ago, I realized that it's because of the unconditional love I received from so many for so long, the ceaseless, unending support from friends and strangers alike, and the fact that I chose to follow my inner guidance system, that 9/11 actually healed me. Now, while I may have experienced one of the worst scenarios in losing Teddy, that does not diminish what happened to you. 9/11 was a collective trauma that changed everyone's lives, that personally hurt us all. Trauma is trauma. It's all relative because it's personal. One is not worse than the other. And trauma is part of our life now. Between the man-made events and an angry Mother Nature, this is where we are. So we have a choice. Are we going to be afraid of it and wonder if? When? It's just a matter of when. We can prepare ourselves and build our resiliency by seeing what we have, by valuing what we know and from what we've been through, and by recognizing the wisdom we've gained from our life experience. We are stronger and wiser than we think we are. You have remarkable courage. We have to stop listening to the rhetoric that says things are bad and breaking and wrong. We are smart and capable. Let's start talking about that instead. It is my mission to bring the light of emotional intelligence and mental health to the world, to shake the stigma of our society and encourage people to seek help, because we are sensory creatures before anything else. And up until now, we have completely neglected our emotional education. Could it be that we've been looking at things the wrong way? We aren't here to be happy. Newsflash. We're here to learn. We're living here in the third dimension because it has contrast. Good and bad, black and white, salt and pepper. Happiness is a birthday party. What we're really here for is joy. And I would describe joy as when you can still see the beauty in a sunset even when your heart is breaking. It's the richness and the depth of being human, of surviving, or thriving, as I'd like to call it. On the other side of struggle, the best question to ask yourself is this: am I better for having lived it? It's the litmus test. Life is always preparing you for life. Each of your experiences is teaching you to handle the next thing better, because life is our classroom and the struggles are our lessons. Let's flip it around. Instead of avoiding and denying our struggle or pain, instead let's choose courage and lean into it. Lean into it because it's here for our benefit. It is here to teach us. It's persevering and moving through the struggle when we receive life's lessons. Because on the other side of the struggle is the wisdom, joy, understanding, and satisfaction of having new knowledge. You are wiser and more prepared for the next thing that's coming. It's understanding that given enough time, everything will be okay, because ultimately, everything always settles into a new normal. What if we could reframe pain and trauma? If you agree that everything in nature is in perfect balance, then why would we have pain if it wasn't necessary? Maybe we're looking at it wrong. I see pain as an opener and a vortex, as a fast track for personal growth. It makes us stop. Things get very simple. Awareness gets heightened and we see things differently. So the next time, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask instead, why is this happening for me? What am I being shown? What am I supposed to learn? Instead of reeling back, being afraid, denying and avoiding the things we don't want to face, we need to lean in offensively and move through, because on the other side is growth, wisdom, and the value of becoming prepared through your life experience. When I began to trust myself, I began to feel empowered. I realized that no one could really know what I had been through in my lifetime 5 years ago, 5 minutes ago. They couldn't know how I felt or what I needed. Only I can know that. When I realized that only I knew what was best for me, I stopped looking to others for validation. I went out into the world with this inner confidence and a better understanding of who I am, where I was headed, and what I needed to get there. I stopped looking to others for approval. Imagine. Again, we have it backwards. We're looking outside of ourselves for validation when we have everything we need right inside. We need to trust our intuition, our internal guidance systems. Women's intuition is real. But it's not just women, it's everybody. Human beings have intuition, gut instinct, sixth sense, and it's this inner guidance that will take us into a beautiful and positive new future. We're here this weekend to talk about women's empowerment. Yes, women really can do it all. We all know that, right? We can run Fortune 500 companies and juggle families, take care of sick parents, run our own multi-million-dollar entrepreneur enterprises. There's no doubt we are a very, very capable and a magnificent segment of the population. Back in January of 2016, when I watched the women's movement amass across the country and mobilize millions of people in dozens of cities, I thought to myself, what's our message? We're mobile, we're motivated, but what's our message? The Me Too movement has arrived. It's important, it's necessary, but it's not positive. Isn't there another more positive message that we can take forward into the world as women? That winter I kept thinking to myself, what do women bring to the table? What do we have or do differently from men? How can we do our unique part to shift the tide of society for the better? And then it hit me. Women have wisdom. It's what we've learned from raising families as caregivers, healers, and nurturers. We know the people in our lives, what makes them tick, when they're scared, when they're hurt, when they're out of balance. What do women bring to the table? We go, shh, it's okay, calm down. What do women naturally bring to the table as the caregivers and nurturers? Wisdom and objective understanding. We can be those voices of reason in the chaos to quiet things down, because the best decisions are made when we are not reacting. The name of the game is strike when the iron is cold. Today's culture lacks wisdom. As women, we can identify the value we bring from our life experience. Let me say that again. The value we bring from our life experience. We've never been allowed or taught or thought to look at it that way. We know a lot, and we know it on many levels. We can shift and do what we do best. Calm down, stop the madness, and be that voice of reason in the chaos. We're always role modeling for our children. Let's not show them how to be afraid, how to hate, how to be divisive. Let's show them instead how to be kind and connected and forgiving. Remember that word? Forgiveness? We can still do that. Let's regroup and do this better. Let's put down our phones and turn off the television. We need to get centered. Enough of reacting and listening to the media. We are smarter than that. We are the strength and courage and wisdom that our world needs now. Let's take control back and calm down. Because every morning the sun still rises in the east, and every evening it still sets in the west. And if you look outside, things really haven't changed. The only thing that has changed is us. So to open the second annual Women of Ohio Wesleyan's WOW Conference tonight, I ask that as we go forward, let's reframe how we see ourselves. Let's understand that no one can know what we need except us. Let's look inward and trust our intuitive knowing, because we already have everything we need. Value your life experience, lean into the struggle, and remember how strong you are. We have a choice to choose courage. Now is the time to do things our way, the calm, wise, and considered way. We have the power, I said that. We can think rationally and take our position as leaders using our emotional intelligence that is so desperately needed in the world today. We have a beautiful and brilliant future ahead. All we have to do is shift our perspective to see it. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh.
Oh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a wonderful, inspiring story and for sharing your personal journey and a message of positivity and love. And love actually does it. And the only thing that we have is kindness.
That's right.
We don't choose our paths, but we choose how we deal with it.
Yes.
So, couple quick, and thank you, Billy, Jen. Thank you for being here. I think it's lovely to see children so proud of their mother, especially those of us who've had children who shun us in their teenage years. They all come back, by the way. But thank you so much. Lisa's going to be doing a book signing in the back for anyone who wants one. I definitely want one. And for those of you who will be attending tomorrow, Lisa's just one of our wonderful inspirational speakers here. So hopefully she's opened up a path and some great ideas for us all and lessons for us all as we face whatever hardships we have in life. They are opportunities to grow and to give. Quick housekeeping for anyone who's coming tomorrow. We start at 8:30 with a continental breakfast. The programs start at 9. We're completely sold out, seating's tight, so come early if you have specific people that you want to sit with. And I want to take a second and introduce my friend, Kathy Milligan. Kathy was also in our class, along with her husband, John. Kathy's a darling person, and we have something
my
for
really
you,
old
Lisa.
friend. You have
Yes.
something for me.
Yeah, it's not even funny.
Oh, sorry. You can't be serious.
I have, I know. I have the great joy, John and I, of being friends of Lisa's for 28 years and Teddy's for 38 years. And I have to tell you, there's not a friend of Teddy's, and everyone knows there's 1,000, 100,000 friends of Teddy's that didn't meet Lisa and say, yes, yes, he's finally found his perfect balance, right? Just finally, right? And so, from the moment I've met, everyone's met Lisa with it, you know that she's fun and powerful. It's never been a question. But I have to tell you, it is such a privilege to see the inspired leader that you have become. And I think what a privilege for all of us, don't you think? I think pretty crazy.
Thank you, Kat.
So here's a little something from the women of Wesleyan.
What is it? Can I open
You
it?
can open it if you want.
I love presents.
I'm gonna pull the tissues, you know.
Ah, my first Ohio Wesleyan jacket. Ah, and a woobie too. I love. Thank you so much. Come here. Those aren't me too. Those have to be for Katie.
Yeah.
They're mine?
They're for you. Surprise!
Oh, I love them.
All of these flowers are on behalf of the Ohio Wesleyan friends. I think you
we didn't get a chance to talk
and your
about
kids know how important you have been in our lives. Even if you haven't met all of us, and maybe you don't hear from us often enough, feel free to pick up the phone or, send a text. But you all are part of our lives, and we talk about you all the time and think about you all the time. And
thank you.
Love you all the time.
Can we talk about that? So part of my talk was going to talk about all the cool, facts of the Ohio Wesleyan Friends Fund and this incredible community of people that has taken care of the Luckett children, the Cherry children, and Anna Campana, so I'm saying that right, Judge. I mean, the honors of just never having been forgotten. When I tell you, it is the difference between losing Teddy and Doug and Anna in this way versus other death. There are other tragedies in the world that are very sad, and unfortunately multitudes of them now, but no one seems to remember them. No one forgets us. If we can use 9/11 as a model, maybe it's too exhausting, I don't know, but the Ohio Wesleyan Friends Fund was a group of mostly Teddy's grade for your crew.
Both grades.
OWFF on my checks, and that, but put together a scholarship in both Ted and Doug's name that we give out every 4 years. For Teddy, it's for someone who is a history major and isn't necessarily an A student. And I'm not sure about Doug, but it's from all of the years of fundraising to create the fund that generates this money, and it's because of these friends, and it's here forever. And that's really incredibly special. So I'll be giving back to Ohio Wesleyan for the rest of my life, I know that.
Oh, we're counting on it.
Thank you.